All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Robert Greene Book Club. And today we're going to be talking about how to poeticize your presence. And this is from the chapter of The Art of Seduction, chapter 12, on how to poeticize your presence. And this chapter is very important because a lot of people, it's almost like the perfect example of poeticizing your presence was like Michael Jackson, Prince, where if you saw them in real life, you would never recognize them how you see them on stage. And we all are in front of the stage, and that's the stage of life. And unfortunately, a lot of us do not put a lot of attention on our presence. If you watch my older videos, you'll notice I didn't put a lot of on my presence. And unfortunately, it did affect my channel. And so we're going to talk about how to poeticize your presence in a romantic way, in a workplace type of way, in a political way. And this will give you such an advantage on creating first impressions, such an advantage on creating the right projection that you want the person to see you as, that it could almost make or break a seduction, okay? And if you guys want to become part of the Robert Greene Book Club, you guys can just go to my Patreon by clicking on the description down below, and there you get access to the full library of the Robert Greene videos. I've been doing this for about a few years now. So I don't know how many I have. I think I have a few dozen of Robert Greene videos that are like over an hour. So just go there, check it out. You know, you can check out all the content and then unsubscribe if you want. It's no big deal. Okay? So let's begin with this video.
Essential to any success. There is no reversal. Details are essential to any successful seduction and cannot be ignored.
All right, this is the chapter.
Chapter 12. Poeticize your presence. Important things happen when your targets are alone. The slightest feeling of relief that you are not there, and it is all over. Familiarity and overexposure will cause this reaction. Remain elusive then, so that when you're away, they will yearn to see you again.
What he just said about anytime there's relief when you're not around, that's not good. Holy freaking crap. I'm looking at the light. Holy crap, is that true? Looking at the light. I've had experiences. Anytime I had an experience where when the woman left, I breathed and said, thank God she's gone. She definitely overexposed herself. She definitely did things that made me feel suffocated with her presence. And a lot of times, in my opinion, when you give that impression to people, it's simply because you don't give people enough space. You might talk too much. You might demand too much attention, right? And that happens a lot. And so you're putting too much pressure on the person. Like I've dated women who would visit me, who I will fly them out. I don't care about flying women out, people. And they would come visit me, but they want to spend 24/7 with me. And me, I'm a nice person, okay? I have a tough time telling you, hey man, leave me the hell alone. Let me do something on my own. I do say it now more than before, but I'm a nice guy. And so I would internalize it and hold it in. I wouldn't tell her, but they would notice that I was a little bit colder with them, you know? And it was because they just weren't giving me space. If they were actually reading me, I'm not asking them to read my mind. I sound like a woman. But if they were actually reading me, they would sense that maybe I need some space. Everyone has an inner sensor, right? If you actually pay attention and stop thinking, you'll notice there's a bunch of sensations that you feel as a result of this person. If you actually pay attention, you'll start noticing a more detailed experience of different senses that arise as you talk to people. And sometimes you can even sense when your presence is too much and you need to pull away a little bit. We all have that because when we were children, people gave us a vibe about them. You know, children had vibes. They had visceral reactions to certain people. And we still have that ability. We just think too much and we don't rely on our prehistoric abilities to be able to sense people's presence.
And will associate you only with pleasant thoughts. Occupy their minds by alternating an exciting presence with a cool distance, exuberant moments followed by calculated absences. Associate yourself with poetic images and objects so that when they think of you, they...
So it's almost like they are... Oh my God, this is so good, honestly. So it's almost like you are... what do you call... What's that phrase? you're almost curating their experience with you, right? And what he said about associating yourself with different figures, for example, right? It's funny how that works, right? I've always been a Buddhist. I've always been spiritual, and I've always practiced Buddhism, to be honest with you. But it's not something that I tell people, right? It's not something that I advertise. It's not something that when I was younger, if you saw me, you wouldn't tell that I practice meditation, right? And so when people would meet me, they would judge me based on how I talked, and I talked in a very vulgar way, to be honest with you. But as soon as I started being more honest with people and telling people that I did Buddhism, and I would sometimes, I had a shirt with the Buddha. If you went to my apartment during that time, you saw like a picture of the Buddha. I swear to God, people actually started. It's not that they trusted me more, but they started treating me differently. They started coming to me with their problems more. They started, there's almost like I became that guy that you talk to when you had problems. Not like a simp type of way, but you know what I'm saying. And the funny thing is that the reason why is because they began associating me with the Buddha. Like they had that positive association, right? And you could do that by, for example, like Christians. How do you know someone's a Christian? And how do you know that you could relate to them on a Christian level? Sometimes they wear a cross. Sometimes they say certain things. But there are certain cues that you can send out into the world that will gain the trust of certain individuals automatically. Right? You can have there are certain visual cues, maybe certain hairstyles, right? Maybe certain tattoos, maybe certain ways of dressing that communicates to certain people that you belong to a certain tribe. Or even dressing in a way, for example, don't you ever wonder why all the cult leaders who say that they're Jesus dress like Jesus, right? They all have the long beard. And you ask yourself, why are people falling for that? Isn't that obvious that this dude is not Jesus? Well, the thing is that humans are visual creatures. And because we're visual creatures, the fact that you look like Jesus, humans cannot help but to project certain emotions they had for Jesus Christ onto that person that kind of looks like Jesus. It's like big, fat, white man with a beard that looked like Santa Claus. Like me, I had a therapist that looked like Santa Claus. Cause like Santa Claus was always like a nice little happy, chubby, warm figure that gives you gifts, right? And so those associations, projections, you could do that through the way that you dress, like I said. Like in other words, stereotypes, right? There are certain ways that people dress that you automatically associate things with them, positively or negatively. You get what I'm saying? All right, let's keep listening.
Begin to see you through an idealized halo. The more you figure in their minds, the more they will envelop you in seductive fantasies. Feed these fantasies by subtle inconsistencies and changes in your behavior. Poetic presence or absence.
So another part, because I just talked about symbolism, poeticizing your presence, right, is also enhancing your presence. And like he said, you can enhance your presence by just being absent and not over suffocating them with your presence. It's like when you see your lover every day and you think about what would happen if I just stopped seeing them for a week, right? Imagine your lover stopped seeing you for a week, right? It will hurt. But when you see them again, it's almost like you're seeing them with a fresh eye. Their presence will become poeticized simply because of absence.
1943, the Argentine military overthrew the government. A popular 48-year-old colonel, Juan Perón, was named Secretary of Labor and Social Affairs. Perón was a widower who had a fondness for young girls. At the time of his appointment, he was involved with a teenager, whom he introduced to one and all as his daughter. One evening, in January of 1944, John F. Kennedy presented himself as a figure of chivalry, noble, brave, charming. Pablo Picasso was not just a great painter with a thirst for young girls. He was the Minotaur of Greek legend, or the devilish trickster figure that is so seductive to women. These associations should not be made too early. They're only powerful once the target has begun to fall under your spell and is vulnerable to suggestion.
So it seems like this exaggerated godlike aura is best done towards the end of the seduction, because maybe that's when the imagination is even more active, and that imagination can take up the shape of bigger and more godlike type of imaginary figure. I guess in the beginning you could create the imagination. For example, in the beginning is like this big, but the more they like you and the more they know you, and when you pull space, now you have a bigger energy, and that bigger energy can create a more bigger and more vivid image of you that could also transcend humanity to the godlike aura. And people do think that with certain partners, they start to idealize them and think of that they're geniuses. I've had women call me that. I'm like legit. Like, and then not even like as a compliment, but like as a romantic shit, like saying I love you. Like, I remember one girl, she was like, "You're a genius." I was like, "Bitch, what?" I just no, but I didn't say no, but I was like, "Thank you." But I felt weird in that, right? What he is saying is don't object to those types of projections. Let them think that, because it'll run wild in their minds.
Man who had just met Cleopatra would have found the Aphrodite association ludicrous, but a person who is falling in love will believe almost anything. The trick is to associate your image with something mythic through the clothes you wear, the things you say, the places you go. In Marcel Proust's novel Remembrance of Things Past, the character Swann finds himself gradually seduced by a woman who is not really his type. He is an aesthete and loves the finer things in life. She is of a lower class, less refined, even a little tasteless. What poeticizes her in his mind is a series of exuberant moments they share together, moments that from then on he associates with her. One of these is a concert in a salon that they attend, in which he is intoxicated by a little melody in a sonata. Whenever he thinks of her, he remembers this little phrase. Little gifts she has given him, objects she's touched or handled, begin to assume a life of their own. Any kind of heightened experience, artistic or spiritual, lingers in the mind much longer than normal experience.
So, meditating with the person, even going to a meditation retreat, honestly, doing any psychedelics with the person, going on roller coaster rides with the person, experiencing a near-death experience with the person, or even you being the source of a heartbreak in a physical way where they're with you and you're breaking their heart, is also a source of that, and that creates a poeticization of you.
You must find a way to share such moments with your targets, a concert, a play, a spiritual encounter, whatever it takes, so that they associate something elevated with you.
I remember I had a girl who did Reiki with me. She did Reiki to me, and I was very skeptical about it, and I let her do it, and I'm not gonna lie, to this day I've never felt so present in my life. Colors became so vibrant, and when she finished, when I looked at her, yes, to this day there's an image that I see of her, and I see her in a calm way, like just calm, the sun hitting her, and it was almost like a strong presence. I never thought about it, but it happened after that experience, right? It was so intense, and so it's very true. If it's funny, like I could do a 1 hour meditation, but if a girl, I remember the first time I did a 1 hour meditation, I felt like I was hovering on the clouds. And it's funny, if I actually have a girl do a 1 hour meditation with me, she might experience the same thing. It's going to be really difficult, right? Because she never done it. But when she's done, she's going to feel a deep experience, and she's going to remember that and then associate me with it, right? It's just an example of that, of how that works.
Shared moments of exuberance.
And that's why
elevated.
That's why spiritual teachers have so much power over their pupils. And that's why you have to be careful if you teach spirituality, because there's a lot of sexual energy that could infiltrate itself like a Trojan horse through those channels. and that could actually hurt the person that you're trying to help. And that's why that sexual energy is not allowed there. And that's why it's so seductive.
With you. Shared moments of exuberance have immense seductive pull. Also, any kind of object can be imbued with poetic resonance and sentimental associations,
like a ring,
as discussed in the last chapter.
Like a ring.
The gifts you give and other objects can become imbued with your presence. If they are associated with pleasant memories, the sight of them keeps you in mind and accelerates the poeticization process.
Like a good example is Polaroid camera, like Polaroid photos, and you give to people. That's an example. Or even the photos you take in a photo booth.
Although it is said that absence makes the heart grow fonder, an absence too early will prove deadly to the crystallization process. Like Eva Peron, you must surround your targets with focused attention, so that in those critical moments when they're alone, their mind is spinning with a kind of afterglow. Do everything you can to keep the target thinking about you. Letters, mementos,
text messages,
gifts, unexpected meetings, all these give you an omnipresence. Everything must remind them of you. Finally, if your targets should see you as elevated and poetic, there's much to be gained by making them feel elevated and poeticized in their turn. The French writer Chateaubriand would make a woman feel like a goddess. She had such a powerful effect on him. He would send her poems that she supposedly had inspired. To make Queen Victoria...
With me, it could be doing a drawing that she inspired, or even painting her. That is actually a real thing, where a lot of painters will tell you that a lot of the models end up falling in love with the painter because the painter paid so much attention to the drawing that it seduced them. Right?
Feel as if she were both a seductive woman and a great leader, Benjamin Disraeli would compare her to mythological figures and great predecessors, such as Queen Elizabeth I. By idealizing your targets this way, you will make them idealize you in return, since you must be equally great to be able to appreciate and see all of their fine qualities.
Oh my God, this actually happened to me a few times where women did that. Oh.
They will also grow addicted to the elevated feeling you give them. Reversal. It might seem that the reverse tactic would be to reveal everything about yourself, to be completely honest about your faults and virtues. This kind of sincerity was a quality Lord Byron had. He almost got a thrill out of disclosing all of his nasty, ugly qualities, even going so far later on in his life as to tell people about his incestuous involvements with his half-sister.
Holy shit.
This kind of dangerous intimacy can be immensely seductive. The target will poeticize your vices and your honesty about them. They will start to see more than is there.
I'm not gonna lie, this is actually very true. This is actually very true, man. I've experiences with in my life. I can't say exactly what they are, but I've definitely. This is actually very true. Look, man. We all have traits that if people know, they may find it unattractive, right? I have those traits too. But what I've noticed in my life is that with my romantic partners, there's almost like it doesn't hurt. It'll hurt if I meet a girl as a friend, and I do notice they tend to judge you more. Romantic partners, it's fucking weird. They don't tend to judge you as harshly, which is kind of interesting.
In other words, the idealization process is unavoidable. The only thing that cannot be idealized is mediocrity. But there is nothing seductive about mediocrity. There is no possible way to seduce without creating some kind of fantasy and poeticization.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you do it, man.
Chapter 13.
All right, people. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I try to do a different style in this one. I let the audio talk a little bit more and talked a tiny bit less. Let me know what you guys think. I'm just trying to adjust it. And I also included the stories of the historical examples that he includes. I also included that. So let me know what you guys think, or maybe if you guys want me to exclude that, because maybe you guys want to hear me more than Robert Greene, to be honest with you. And hopefully you guys enjoy this. And if you're not part of the Patreon, become part of the Patreon for $5 a month. You get access to all of my Patreon, all of my book club videos, and other videos that I post exclusively. And you also get access to the Robert Greene book clubs videos as I continue posting. I post around 2 chapters per month. So yeah, take care. See you. Click on the description down below to get it.